Hello and welcome to Learning Music with Pat. Now I've been showing you, and we've experimented a little, and I've played songs and changed instruments and played the same song. So I've been trying to show you that you can change the instrument and change the key and still get the same song. So I've decided to do a little music writing, and so I've written a few songs that just make use of 6 notes. B, A, G, F, E, D. And if you look at the instrument as I'm holding it, B, A, G, F, E, D. And so we've been working with those 6 notes. Now an octave is just 8 notes. It would be 1 note lower and 1 note higher. And so an octave is 8 notes, and the bottom note is just 8 notes lower than the high note, and the high note is 8 notes lower than higher than the low note. But B, A, G, F, E, D are 6 notes, the main notes of the recorder. And I've shown them to you before. B, A, G, F, E, D. And if it's a Baroque recorder, that F, you add the extra finger. So what I'm going to do is play you some music that I've written. And if you can follow along, if you can remember the fingerings of the notes, B, A, G, F, E, D, bag, fed. And we've gone over this before. And remember, when you hold the instrument, you hold it with your fingers curved. If I'm only playing the B, my fingers are still curved over the instrument, not flat like that, so that as I progress with the different notes, I can get them down easily. So if you want to take a look at the music here, let me just show you the music. D is right here, and B is right here, and B is right here. And that's basically as high as it gets. And D is as low as it gets. So D, E, F, G, A, B. And I've done this whole song just on those 6 notes. So I'm going to play it for you, and it's a waltz. It has 1 sharp in it. It's in the key of G. That's 1 sharp. The lowest note is this D right below the first staff line. The highest note on this song is on that B, which is right here on the 3rd line. How do we know it's a B? Well, if you use what I gave you, every good boy, B boy, deserves fudge or does fine, and the D is just below that. So I'm going to make it in 3/4 time, and I'm not going to play it too fast. 3/4 means that there are 3 beats to a measure. A quarter note gets 1 beat, and this is waltz tempo. So what I'm going to do is play it first, and then I'm going to switch instruments and play the same thing on different instruments, maybe at different speeds, and see what we get. No matter how we change it, we're still going to come out with the same song. So let me try this waltz right now so you can see what I'm doing. That's the whole thing. And if you watch the music, you can follow it along as to what I'm playing, because I did it. It's simple half notes, quarter notes, nothing other than half notes and quarter notes within that six note limit that I have set. Well, what if I want to see what it's going to sound like on another instrument? Or what can we do with it? Well, this is a little sopranino. It's a fully functioning recorder. It's very high pitched. It's in the key of F. I'm going to use the same fingerings. I'm going to count it the same way. And what I'm going to do is, what you're going to actually see is you're going to see see it high, or hear it high pitched. So I will start that in just a second. That D that was lower on the descant recorder is really higher pitched. Let me just play that first D for you. Now I'll play the whole song. this on the little sopranino. Well, I'll try something else. I'll try the E flat. This is an E flat a penny whistle. It's an older instrument. It's a nice instrument, and it's gold tone with a red top. All of the penny whistles, sometimes I call them Irish flutes, are the same thing. That first D, you can see the change of the pitches with it. So I'll play the same song. Now, it doesn't sound exactly the same, but I've actually played the same song. I've just used it, and I've used the same fingerings, but of course the instrument is in a different key. And when it's in a different key, it's going to come out differently. And the lower note is a little harder to get. That's the lowest note of the instrument, and it's harder to get than the other notes are. So I'm going to switch again. And I'm going to this time try a little song flute. This little song flute plays quite well, but you'll see, of course, it's a different kind of tone. I'm using the same fingerings. It's just a different instrument. It even has a little tone hole in the back. That's the lowest note. Really like this, and as you know, and I mentioned it before, there is a story behind this, and I'm just going to tell it to you, just so if you haven't seen this show before, you'll understand. My brother and his kids used to keep this song flute in their car, so when they were traveling, they would have something to play with and something to play. So we were out driving. I was in the back seat. The kids, some of them were in the front seat, and they got this out. They had it under the seat, which is not a good place to put it anyway, and they flipped it over to me and said, "Here, Auntie Pat, you can have this. It doesn't play." And I'm thinking to myself, why would it? You know, it's in the coldest of cold in the winter. It's in the hottest of hot in the winter. They never took it in. I'm surprised that it would even make a sound. I'm surprised that it's not cracked. Of course, I didn't tell those things to them. I thanked them for the instrument, and I was sure I could use it. Well, it wouldn't play for me either. So what I started was I started blowing in it just gently, a little bit at a time, and it started to squeak. And when it started to squeak, I thought, you know, it's going to repair. And so I had longer breaths in it, a little longer tones. It had a little squiggly tone, and then every few days, another added little tone, until finally, over a period of time, it played the whole scale, and it played it beautifully. So I took it to an orchestra that I was in, and I was playing it, and everyone stopped because the tone was unusual, but it's also a very nice tone. So it had been restored from not playing to playing very well. And it's one of my favorite instruments because I've also used it in sermons as examples of God's, getting us started again and giving us second chances and helping us to restore ourselves and all of that. And so it's a very nice instrument. So I'm going to play it again. Just listen to its tone from nothing to this. What's really nice about it is the tone is very nice, and it is in perfect pitch with itself. It's in a little different key than what the recorders are to begin with, but it's in pitch with itself, and that's very important. Now, I'm going to try another instrument here. I don't know who makes it. It's just a melody flute. There's no name on it in terms of the company that produces it, and but it plays fairly well. It was less than $2 to buy it. So let's try it and see what it sounds like. Not very robust, but it actually makes the tones, and it actually sounds pretty good, and it is a little melody flute. Now I have another one. This is a Pearl Piper. It's an orange one, and it's pretty good for this type of instrument. I paid $1.98 for it. When I was in a store, and a friend of mine said, "Look, what's this? What is that anyway?" And I says, "Well, it's a flute that belongs to me," and I picked it up and I bought it. So this is it. I don't know how it's going to sound on this. Now you can see the lower register doesn't do very well. I'm going to try playing again, see if I can get it an octave up, because the higher note seems to be doing better. Now, how did I get the higher notes? Well, I didn't half hole or anything. I just blew harder, and it just automatically blew up. You know, this cost less than $2, but it's very playable. I actually have done solos on this little Pearl Piper. Some of them it's hard to do solos on because the pitch just isn't that good. But I can do it with that one, and I have in the past. Now here's another little melody flute here. I don't know how this is going to be doing either. It's just a straight flute with holes in it. You know, there's no tone holes in the back. I don't know how this is going to do, but we'll see what happens. Not bad. So let's just take a look. Well, I have one more instrument. Well, I have two more. Let me try the flutophone. Now, the flutophone's a nice little instrument, always in pitch with itself. It does have a tone hole in back. It doesn't do octaves. So when I tried to raise the pitch to get maybe one more note out of it, you know, get a D out of it or a C out of it, because this music goes up to the D, to the B, I couldn't go beyond it. I just couldn't. But it has a nice little tone, and it's in pitch with itself. And so let's see what it sounds like. not bad. Quite. I've done solos on flutophones before. I had open heart surgery. I had to have a bypass, a coronary bypass, a few years ago, and my heart was in such bad shape. At the time, they told me I only had about a month to live without the surgery, and my airflow had cut down so much that the only instrument I could really play was this little flutophone, and I actually did solos, small, short solos, kind of gasping for breath, and until I made it to the surgery. Then, of course, I returned to all of the other instruments that I played. But this is a good little instrument. So I think I have one more I'd like to try. This is a sasuto, and the sasuto, sometimes I've used them as much as the recorders. They're very nice instruments. There is a bigger finger stretch. I don't know how this is going to exactly be, but I think it'll be okay. So those are the instruments that I've tried with the song. So I want to go back to the music here, and as you can see with the music, everything is within that 5-6 note range, D, E, F, G, A, B. It never gets higher than that B. It never gets lower than that D. Now the recorder can play one note lower, it can play the C, and actually it could go up another octave, but I want to keep it basic and show you just how much these little instruments can do. Now, so this is a 6-note gap right here, and this is just a one step. This is your second, this is 2 beats, it's a half note, so it's 2 beats, and this is the third beat. And when we get down here to the last note, that last note is only a half a note, but the song is in 3/4. So the third beat, 1, 2, the third beat would be this one here. I use that third beat right here to act as the introduction. Now you don't play those notes together. It wouldn't sound good if you did play them together. But the idea is to balance it off so you have measures that have exactly the same number of beats in them. I don't see what difference it makes really, but that's the way that music is written. So if you can remember that, if you're going to count it, if you're playing a song, you have to count it in your mind at any rate until you get used to the music. You would count this as being 3, and then 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now there's a tie on that. That little archway is a tie, and you have that whole note, which is 3 beats, connected with that half note, which is 2 beats. So when you tongue this and play it, you play it for 5 beats. In your mind, you're saying 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, but you're playing like it's one note. So you hold it over, you don't tongue that, you hold that over longer so it includes those 2 beats. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and this is 3 beats, and this is 3 beats. When you get here to that dotted half, that's also 3 beats. And the reason it's 3 beats is the fact that a half note has 2 beats, and a dot means it's worth half as much as what the note is. So if the half note is worth 2 beats, a half of that is going to be another beat, just 1 beat, so that makes that 3 beats. So instead of writing out another note here, which I could have done and put a tie on it, I just put a dot on that, and that automatically comes out to be 3 beats. So there are different ways of writing music, and of course these are all 1 beat because they're quarter notes. This is a half, 1, 2, 3. If I put a tie on it, and I didn't want to, I would have played it together like it was 1 note for 3 beats, like I would have done here. But it's 2 separate notes because it needs to be it needs to be tongued. Now, when you pick up an instrument, you know, of course, that you are going to hold this instrument and you're going to tongue your notes. Every note's going to be tongued, except if I put a tie or a slur on it. A tie would be like I've done a couple of times, like right here. You know, a slur would be if I had different notes, but I didn't want you to tongue the second note or third note. I just wanted you to hold it without tonguing it. Then I could put a slur on it. It would be the same thing. So you pick up the instrument, left hand on top, right hand on the bottom, and then what you do is you play, you tongue your first note, you tongue, in most of these notes you tongue it. You put the mouthpiece in your mouth for about a third of the way up. You know, about a third of the way up, and then you are tonguing. You act in your mind when you're putting your tongue up against the instrument, and you're in your mind thinking ta or tu. Your tongue is actually touching this part of the mouthpiece. Otherwise, you'd be just holding the notes and slurring them. And that's very inappropriate and doesn't sound good unless it's written in the music to do that. And that would be a slur, and that would do that if you had the music to do that. So what you need to remember is always tongue every note unless it's obvious that you don't. What if I want to play this faster? Though I could never do it that fast if I couldn't tongue. It would sound terrible. So you have to be able to tongue, and you have to be able to tongue every note unless there's a tie on it. If there's a tie on it, like up here, then of course you wouldn't tongue that second one. You would just hold it over. So I'm going to, we don't have much time left, but that's this first song. And I think what I'll do, I'm going to try another song. Maybe I should just wait. We don't have too much time left. So let me close it here. And I think next time I'm going to start off with an arrangement of Amazing Grace I did, in which I playing it with one instrument, but changing the key and going into that song like 3 or 4 different keys. So we'll start off with that next time. So you can see how this is actually done. So we'll close it here. Please join me next time.